Eric Prince is a private military contractor who founded a company called Blackwater. Now, this guy is basically proposing to the West and the First World that they put on their imperialist hat again and recolonize Africa and recolonize South America. Now, when he looks at particularly the immigration policies that were deployed in Europe, right, particularly being pushed by Germany under the Angela Merkel government, which required about 1 million immigrants to move to Germany because of their struggling birth rate. He also speaks about the immigration policies, which is particularly open borders that were pushed in the United States under the Obama administration and the current administration, which is the Biden administration. Now, this open border policy, particularly in America, is particularly, he believes that it is leading America to a civil war. Now, as you look at what's happening in Texas, right, where a number of states are going against the federal government's policy of open borders for migrants. He also views these migration policies in America and Europe as an invasion of the third world into the first world. Now, Eric Prince says that if you look at the type of people that are basically migrants to the States or to Europe, it is mostly military aged men, right, who were particularly trained in Venezuela, and they are there under the ticket of Iran. He also thinks that Iran has developed quite an entrenched system of sleeper cells, right? Sleeper cells are basically military trained agents, right, which go into certain countries and wait for instructions from their boss country. In this case, particularly, it is Iran. Now, another issue that Eric Prince mentions is the issue of governance, right? The governments of Africa in particular, and the governments that you find in Latin America, particularly in South America. He states that when it comes to the governments in Africa, right, the only thing that they are concerned with, right, is the status they get and positions they get in government, right? And when they are in the government, they loot, right? Steal and work with corrupt people, right? He also mentions that these leaders that you particularly find in African governments, all they know is to go shopping in Paris. And while they enjoy their time in Paris, their people suffer back home, living in squalor, undeveloped countries without infrastructure, water supply, electricity, and basic services. And this type of behavior tends to push particularly young people, right? If you look at particularly West Africa, people from West Africa took the risk of number one, crossing the Sahara, right? Risking their lives crossing the Mediterranean, right? And then getting to Europe and being treated bad. So he says that if a young person prefers to go through this process, right, then there is really something wrong where that young person comes from, right? Under which country they are, the type of government is not really helping them. In South America, he particularly mentioned the criminal organized gangs that tend to use young people as moles, right? When you're a mole, you are basically used as the individual who moves drugs from the country that they are from. It could be Ecuador, it could be Brazil, could be Mexico, right? Straight into the United States.